the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority has found that Benylin Paediatric syrup has no traces of diethylene glycol. Now, back in April, SAHPRA recalled the product as a precautionary measure after concerns were raised in 5 African countries. These include Nigeria, Tanzania, Rwanda, Kenya, and Eswatini. Let's find out what's going on. Joining us is the manager of regulatory compliance at SAHPRA, Mokgadi Fafudi. It's great to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed for giving us some of your time this afternoon. So tell me, Mokgadi, shall we begin with the recall? What happened at the time of the recall that made us think here in South Africa that we might also be at risk, our children?
You would recall, Michelle, that on the 13th of April, we issued a statement, and that was based on Nigeria's regulatory authority called NAFDAC's report that they found high levels of diethylene glycol in the Benylin Paediatric syrup that they have tested. So we therefore had to precautionarily do a recall within the country and also alert other countries to ensure that the public is safe, because that's our mandate. So we had to recall the batches, the 2 batches that were affected, which was the batch, I don't know if you recall the batch numbers, it was 329, 303, and 329, 304. So we recalled those batches, and they were expiring on end of April this year. So as a precautionary, we couldn't take a chance, and then we recalled while we were testing. And this was in communication with the manufacturer and all the others who were affected.
So, and what is diethylene glycol, and why is it, why would it have been such a disaster almost if indeed we had tested positive for this chemical, can we call it, if it were indeed detected in the pediatric syrup?
So diethylene glycol we call it a contaminant because when you are manufacturing a syrup, for example, which is a liquid preparation, there are various components. There are excipients, there's the active pharmaceutical ingredients, and there is like water and other excipients and other compositions that are involved in order to bring the final product. So diethylene glycol, if it is in 0.1% or less, it would be acceptable if found in that. But remember, we're speaking also about pediatric syrups. These are for children. So you want to make sure that all formulations for children are safe. And diethylene glycol shouldn't be more than 0.1% at any point. So that's according to specification. And also this has been widely tested. And at those lower or non-traceable levels, it would be acceptable. And as we also approve products, we have made sure that those would be less or not traceable at all.
Yeah.
So in this, hence, we had to take it serious because as a contaminant, it does have some undesirable effect. It can cause various effects that we have shown in our previous press release. Like, for example, it can cause acute kidney problems. It can also cause acute stomach problems. In severe instances, it may lead to death. So we had to not take a chance. Yeah,
undesirable effects, to say the least. Should we be considered, and certainly I would be considered, if indeed Nigeria's health ministry is correct to say that there was an unacceptably high level of diethylene glycol that was found to cause acute toxicity in lab animals. So, at some stage, at least in that country, there was an unacceptably high level of this contaminant in the pediatric syrup.
Michelle, remember the shelf life of this product is 36 months. So, and this was at the month that it was expiring. And upon release, it has met the specification. So we do not know the conditions under which it was there. However, hence we had to test to verify the report that they have given. Because remember, this is only 2 batches and there's a range of 10 different Benylins. So we did our own testing and we followed the WHO approved and recommended testing. and there was no diethylene glycol that was detected. This was in line with the initial release 36 months ago. And we used an independent laboratory to find this while we were investigating.
I see.
And also, there hasn't been any report from all the countries that you have mentioned in your opening. They have not been adverse events that were reported, and they didn't have any remaining. The only Kenview mentioned that there was only one bottle that was returned from Kenya, but not from any other, and there have never been reports of any adverse events. Kenview also conducted their independent study, that investigation, that also with their independent lab, they found that there was no trace of diethylene glycol. Okay. So as such, based on our results, we conclude that there was no trace of diethylene glycol, and there's no need for panicking that in relation to those two batches. And we have not had any adverse events to date.
Mokgadi, the statement from SAHPRA is quite, there's a line there that says, the tests didn't find traces of diethylene glycol in the recalled batches, and this indicates that the batches, and you've named the batch numbers, that were stored at the required temperature would not contain unacceptably high levels of diethylene glycol. This issue of being stored at the required temperature and the issue of the shelf life of the medication, could this contribute to higher levels of diethylene glycol? I suppose my question is, does it impact whether the levels of diethylene glycol perhaps increase if it's older than the 36-month lifespan of this product?
Remember, the manufacturer specification clearly indicated this, and what was tested was that the shelf life was 36 months. So meaning that when this medication is distributed, all those who are handling it, be it at the pharmacy, be it at the clinic, at any place that is allowed to keep them, they must keep it at the manufacturer specification. It does clearly state that, and professionals knows which conditions those are. So if it has passed the specifications upon manufacturing and it was released appropriately, and the conditions under which it was stored were correct, we do not expect that there will be any DEG, because that can result as a result of incorrect conditions that the medicine is exposed at.
So what is the correct condition? For those of us who have children and perhaps do use pediatric syrups of this nature, do we keep it in the fridge?
So basically, I don't want to speak in general. However, when it comes to medicines, usually they would be stored below 25 degrees Celsius temperature, and the thermal level, or those that we call cold chain, would be stored between 2 and 8 degrees. But clearly, it depends on the different medicines and manufacturer specification. But in this instance, below 25 degrees is safe to keep the medicine if it is not exposed to too much heat, for example.
Mokgadi,
because not only DEG is a concern, but there could be any other concerns that may develop when a medicine is not stored at the correct temperature.
Certainly. That's good advice. Thanks very much for that clarity. Mokgadi Fafudi is with the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority, talking to us about Benylin Paediatric cough syrup. I think it's just syrup and not necessarily the cough syrup. But yeah, it has effectively been cleared here in South Africa. Over those concerns were raised in 5 African countries.